Welcome to the Outlier's Journey, where we'll explore the human stories of inspiring paths to success in the African American and Caribbean immigrant communities, as well as people of color all around the world. My name is John Seaton. I've always been fascinated with folks who manage to overcome adversity and somehow achieve success despite the odds. With these stories, I hope to enlighten and inspire others, especially those listening that may find themselves in a similar circumstance. So let's get started. Today, I want to welcome Kevin Barrow to the podcast. We will explore his journey, which began in Brooklyn, New York, Barbados, the home of Rihanna, for those of you who don't know, and Connecticut.
That's right.
Kevin had the challenges of growing up in a pre-gentrified Brooklyn, in an immigrant family, and having to manage going back and forth to Barbados. But he had an additional challenge of having to deal with dyslexia and being colorblind. But this gave Kevin what I call a diversity of perception, that he managed to change this perceived negative into a positive. So you definitely want to stay tuned to understand how he managed through these adversities. So Kevin sees the world through a different lens that many others don't. So this is what makes his story so fascinating. We'll follow his journey all the way to Cisco in his current role as a technical marketing engineer responsible for our cutting-edge collaboration solutions. Kevin also has a bachelor's in criminal justice from Temple University. So we want to understand how he went from criminal justice to being in tech. So with that, Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Thank you, John.
Yeah, no worries. I really appreciate you joining us today to tell your story. I always like to begin with the here and now, and then we'll circle back to where it all started, and we'll understand the journey of how you got to where you are today. So just tell me a little bit about work, family, life, where you're currently residing.
Right. I'll start with the easy stuff.
Yep.
Currently shipwrecked in the wonderful state of Georgia. And I have 3 sons, and that's Kevin, Cameron, and Christian, the 3 Ks. And their wonderful mom is Keisha. So it's all Ks.
Wow.
I take no credit for that alliteration. None at all whatsoever. Next thing I know, that happened, and she's responsible. That's right. And then you mentioned Connecticut. She is from the wonderful state of Connecticut. Okay. She's very, very proud of that as well. Yes.
All right, cool. So this podcast is all around the journey of going through some sort of adversity and becoming successful. But everybody has a different definition of success. So how would you, Kevin, define success?
Success, to whittle it down, to me, success is options is the first word that always comes to mind. There is nothing, I believe, more personally or inherently defining when you take away options from any living organism. Yeah, it changes the whole layout. It changes your whole mind state of anything.
I like that. I've heard others on this program have talked about sense of freedom, right? So with options, you have freedom.
That's right.
And as I used to tell my kids, is if you work hard now, later on you'll have options.
You'll have options. Yeah. I do tell my sons that all the time.
So tell me, why did you want to tell your story other than I called you up and asked you, but you didn't have to agree?
I did not have to agree. Well, let me be honest. You are extremely, what's the word? I've seen some work that you've done. So I lost a little bit of objectivity there because I was very impressed by the way you presented certain things. It was a different take. And it really changed as I've seen everyone's take during the pandemic. And I've seen people go through certain cycles. But us in this collaboration game, for those of you that may not know, right, voice and video and how we communicate in a digital world, you transformed your office. That was a pivotal one for me. And you posted it And that was it. That literally was it. I've heard your name. Been fortunate enough to be on a call or two with you, but I saw that post and it was not manufactured. It was very organic, and you made the most out of a space that clearly you have to spend much more time in. So you brought Cisco into your office. You brought collaboration and communication into your office, and
So I had a little bit of credibility with you before
just a
I
little bit, just a
before I
little bit, John.
asked. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And you know, as we got to speak, right, or even text between one another, we found out we had a lot in common, right?
That's right.
Similar backgrounds, which we're going to get into. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up.
So I just came back from vacation from some much needed time off from Montreal. So as mom and dad says, you were assembled in Montreal. All right. But I was born in Brooklyn, born in Kings County Hospital. Yeah, Kings County, County of Kings in New York. Yes.
So what was it like growing up? I guess the first part of your being on this earth you spent in Brooklyn, right? Before going, and we'll get into, you went back and forth to Barbados as well, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. A lot of it, as they say, the formative years is between Brooklyn, Herkimer. First we were on Park Avenue, then on Park Place, sorry, and then we were on Herkimer. Grandmother owned this is my mother's mother, named Brownstone, and my grandmother worked for a chemical bank. And unless you were born in the late 70s, you wouldn't know that.
Right.
But yeah, chemical bank and 77 Herkimer Avenue between Nostrand.
What neighborhood was that?
That's Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Bed-Stuy,
Yes,
as they say, do or die.
Bed-Stuy, do or die. That's right. That's right.
Now known as Stuyvesant Gardens.
Stuyvesant. Oh my goodness! Right. This is before I even heard of something like Williamsburg. Or, what's Williamsburg? I'm
right.
Like, or something like, I know Crown Heights, and I know East New York. I know Flatbush. Right. I know Bed-Stuy. Right. All of the schools that my older cousins went to that are now closed, like Erasmus Hall and Clara Barton.
Yeah.
My family went to those schools. Brooklyn Tech. Right?
Yeah, I'm a Brooklyn Tech Knight.
Right.
Erasmus was my district.
Okay.
But I was afraid to go there, so I took the test. Fortunately, got into Brooklyn Tech.
Well, clearly, I think you are a better man for it.
So tell me what it was like. I know what it was like growing up in Brooklyn back in those days, but to those who are only familiar with the Brooklyn of, the late 2000s,
right?
What was it like back then?
Well, I'll tell you. As I look back, I have a twin, so it's Kim and Kevin. I think we might have talked about that. We look back and we wonder how we made it out of Brooklyn.
It's amazing you have to say make it out, like it was somewhere to get away from.
Yeah. I mean, the last conversation we had about Brooklyn was, my cousin Michelle and my sister. They went to go visit a friend, and in the lobby there was an unfortunate circumstance, for example, and someone was unfortunately killed within 5 feet from her. Right?
Wow.
I'm literally rubbing here. I have a scar on my shin that I'll never forget. Where it was a block party, right, up on Sterling, going into Eastern Parkway. It was a friend that was with us, and we were walking from one block party to the next, and there was a guy he didn't get along with, and fight ensued, right? And here I am. I mean, I'm there for the summer now. I'm just there back for the summer, and next thing you know, I've got my first pair of suede sneakers, and that my great aunt got me. And they wanted to take my sneakers.
It was a thing back then. It
was a thing.
They took sneakers. They took hats. They took glasses. They took sheepskin coats.
Zal, the sheepskin. I can tell you so many stories about this sheepskin. And, I didn't grasp what was happening, but they did that quickly. And, if my mother's ever listening to this, she's gonna be like, "Oh my goodness," because the stuff that you get exposed to while you're out, you don't run home and tell your mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My cousin's, I'm sorry, my aunt Jocelyn, forgive me. Her boyfriend came by and leaving. He was shot 2 blocks from the house leaving because he would not give up his sheepskin.
Right.
Right? No one knew him or anything, and he's just walking back. Nostrand Avenue stop was close. He's walking to Clinton. I think it was Clinton, to the Clinton stop. It's things like that, and you go senseless,
Right.
and we wonder. And if I talk to people that are still there, right, back on Marcy, it's like, and you talk to them about what you do when you see them, for them to grasp what it is that you do for your profession. Some get it, some don't. But we all know the ones that were fortunate to move away, they do get it. They do get it. A lot of them are, in Virginia or South Carolina or something.
Yeah.
And the worst thing, I'll tell you, John, is when, mom said, hey, so I am done at Lehman, and she got a job in Fairfield County in Connecticut. And she got a job in Connecticut.
So you're getting out.
I'm getting out. That's the beginning of it, right? That's the beginning of it. Yes, good. And you become open to new ways of things, but luckily, when you're young, I think you adjust and adapt better. And then when you come back to Brooklyn for the summer, that's oh man, you talk about initial shell shock, and then it's easy to become re-assimilated with your environment.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But that there is something else. In East Norwalk, where we were, exit 16 off of 95, hey, look, there's something else. I have no idea what's going on in Norwalk now, but not the point. But Connecticut was a whole different country at the time.
So essentially, what that did was it opened your eyes to something beyond Brooklyn. And so if you think back to the folks who you grew up there and stayed there, unfortunately, a lot of them, the folks who, remained in that period of time, did not excel the way that you might have, right? So if you look back to the folks who you may have grown up with, what would you say their station in life or their trajectory was, those who stayed?
Of course, right? I have a crystal ball now, but it only goes one way, in reverse.
Yep.
Not for the best. Sad. Truly sad. I mean, there's the things that I hear, Cornel West or the late great, Martin Luther King, right? The thingification, right? We were things, and when you remove the human aspect from things, right? You are a thing. You are there to, you are a server. You work. It's easy for things to befall you. You have no idea what you're missing out on.
In general, we know if you can't see it, you can't be. Unless you're exposed to the outside world, you may be, quote unquote, stuck in your circumstance. The reason you were invited to this podcast, because I know growing up in Brooklyn, if you were, quote unquote, to escape and then, quote unquote, to become successful, unfortunately, you're an outlier. Right? So that's sort of why you're here. And we want to further talk about those things that help you on your overall journey to become that outlier. So the first thing was your mother took you out of that environment, to Connecticut, where you were able to see different things. But in talking with you at the past conversation, there was some good with that and there was some bad with that, right?
Yes.
But before we even get there, I want to uncover the trips back and forth to Barbados, right?
Yeah.
And what the heck happened in 5th grade?
So that's a good one. Thank you for that. I will answer that by making a statement which I hope will make sense, and I'm going to be very succinct here. I have never lived with both parents at the same time. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that feels like. I have no idea. So when I talk to you about Barbados, right, that really has to do with my dad's side of the family. And I often, still to this day, go, boy, there were so many cues that were there, right, that I did not capitalize upon. I didn't grasp, I should say. Going to Barbados is because that's a mom and dad issue. And you know what? Neutral territory was Barbados. It was a stable environment. It was a no fuss zone because granddaddy did not play that. My great grandmother, who's the first person and last person to blister my behind, she didn't play that, right? Gran didn't. Gran is my great grandmother. She had Everton, and Everton had Ian, and Ian had Kevin. As I get older and I share stories, I didn't understand how rich, in the literal and figurative sense, that soil in Barbados was. I didn't understand how rich that environment was. We were fortunate enough to go to the exact same school that my father and my uncle went to. What's the significance of that? Well, when you think about it, it was a school that couldn't hold any more than 18 to 20 kids, from what we would call kindergarten all the way to graduating high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that woman, Miss Smith, said to me, I blistered your father's behind, I'll blister yours. And I'll never forget that from Miss Smith.
You had some legacy there.
Oh, legacy. Oh, my goodness. So when you go to Barbados, for those of you that don't know, the level of education is on another level. A second language, any West Indians understand this. You don't compete against who's sitting across from you on a wooden desk. You compete against the world. It's 16 by 22. It's limestone. I mean, come on, really? That's why Rihanna is Rihanna. That's why, Sir Garfield Sobers is Sir Garfield Sobers. That's why Grantley Adams Airport. That's why Errol Barrow is on the on the note in Barbados. So I didn't grasp that, but I appreciate it more now. I couldn't stand it then. So we would go back and forth to Barbados for a year and a half, 2 years at a time. And this was consistent. So it was Brooklyn, Connecticut, Barbados, consistently. Nothing else in between. Nothing else. So whenever the decision was made, adult decisions, where the kid's going to go, well, while you make up your mind, the kids are in Barbados, and we're not going to rip them out of school. So we would do a year in Barbados. And then once we landed in Connecticut with a full-fledged Bajan accent, Brooklyn, it's fine. I never realized this, John. When you're in Brooklyn with an accent,
everybody has an accent.
What?
I just looked up on Google Maps the other day.
What?
It's official.
What?
It's Little Caribbean and Little Haiti. It's part of the
Come
two
on.
neighborhoods in Brooklyn, so it doesn't matter.
You know what I mean? It didn't matter. But when you cross that border and you move into, it's like once you're leaving White Plains and then you're going into, once you hit Connecticut and Greenwich and Stamford and Bridgeport and Stratford and, further up, going up to the West Haven. I mean, it's a whole nother ball game.
So you must have been viewed differently, not only amongst the majority, but also the minority, because you're the minority of a minority in Connecticut.
Minority of the minority in Connecticut. Heck yeah. I look back at it not very fondly, to be honest, because it was the first time that I can recall feeling like an outsider, being teased. you mentioned, colorblind or dyslexic. To consciously digress, when you are dyslexic or something's not right, and I would argue that it's not until just a few years ago, whether it's a decade or whatever, there wasn't a label for it. It's kind of like ADHD or whatever it is, different diagnoses. You find a way to survive if you have the metal. And mine was my memory. I could see something and memorize it, still can to this day. But it doesn't mean you truly understand it. I say that because when you're seeing something backwards, your S's or your fives, oh, God forbid, it's cursive and it's a Q. I couldn't grasp that. But you would find a way to understand that that's the right way.
So,
it doesn't matter what
so
you
let's
think.
get to that, Kevin. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when did you first realize that something was different? And was there even a word for it when you realized it was different? And there was a gap
Absolutely.
between, when something started to go wrong and when it was
Fourth grade.
pinpointed as okay.
Instinctively, I always knew something. I felt something was wrong. And we hear stories all the time today about somebody knew something even back then for whatever it is that the topic is. I knew something was wrong in fourth grade. Even just before that in Barbados, it was in Barbados where my grandfather said, hey, he needs glasses. So when my mom came to pick me up, I was wearing glasses. When she dropped me off, I wasn't. So we did get the love and that type of attention. So I am very, very thankful for grandmommy, granddaddy, and gran. Usually you drop kids off and you pick them up. Hopefully they're in the state that you left them in, but we were in better shape, I will say. But then you get to school in Connecticut and you have to deal with the accent and the teasing. And I remember Narragansett in Connecticut, Narragansett in East Norwalk, only black kids in the class, and you speak differently. Yet you have a grasp on the English language. I mean, we are killing it in English. We may not sound like it, but we speak the Queen's English.
Yes,
that's
Queen's
right. That's right, John. And so we passed and blazed every test.
Right.
And for some reason, they couldn't understand, why is it if you give me this lesson, and I blazed it, it is when it comes to certain things like algebra and you must show your proofs of how you come to something. That's where I struggled. I always knew there was an issue before that. I knew if you told me, show me how, I always knew somebody's going to say, show and prove. And to this day, I say, boy, every day I'm going to get found out. I'm going to get found out because
you call that the imposter syndrome,
the
right?
imposter syndrome, right? The imposter. And as I get older, I think there's a little bit of that in all of us when we're a natural at something, right? Math obviously is what would expose it when you have to show it, whether it's in geometry or proofs and theorems, things like that. But to your question, though, when we got to Connecticut, oh man, you have no idea. Some of you that are listening, when you get to Connecticut, specific parts of Connecticut, and I'm speaking of East Norwalk, and then I'm speaking of Stratford, Connecticut, back then, not very well integrated. You were more different because you sounded different, not because you were of a different hue or something like that, a different color. It was because you sound differently than the rest of your peers. And that, let me tell you, if I ever tried to fit in, it was there. It was in Connecticut, because Connecticut is one of those, it's not New York, it's not Massachusetts, it's just right down the middle, right? And I tell you, they were not kind, John. I was not spared anything. I tell you,
So you went from I forget the saying, but like from the pot of boiling water to a pot of boiling oil. So you escape Brooklyn, right? And then you figure, Brooklyn. Okay, I'm going to an environment in which I can be, developed. But then you're sort of ostracized and teased because you do have an accent. And then on top of that, you start to become of age where the dyslexia starts to reveal itself.
That's right. That is right. And I'll tell you, we're not talking until, when it was actually diagnosed, right? We're talking late in the senior year was the first time someone actually brought it up that I can recall. But I am telling you,
senior year of high school.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You were struggling for a long time, even without it being diagnosed.
John.
Wow.
I just got back 2 weeks ago from today, right? So it was in June 2022. And for those of you listening for a timeline, I was telling my son about carrying books home. I have never, ever carried a book home. I never had a book bag throughout junior high, through high school. The only time I would bring a book home or two together is to keep my parents off my back. If I did not learn it in that class, if I did not sit down and read it because I could read it and remember it, I didn't say comprehend. I said read it, right? And be able to regurgitate it with accuracy. Bringing a book home was a waste of time by then. I went to Penn Relays. I ran track in high school. I lettered in 3 different high schools, which is why I do understand how people can make it into college and don't know how to read or write. I do understand that. I just didn't get it, and clearly they didn't get it, but I knew enough to get through everything and pass my exams. And not just for them, because I didn't need to make school happy. I need to make mom or dad or both happy. And that was always my goal, to make them happy, to some sense. Still that way today, right? But I didn't know what the hell they were. What the hell is this? Why? Multiplication or long division. Holy shit, John. Long division. What? For what? For what?
Yeah. And you also said you had what? So you found ways to compensate. Right? You said you found some tricks. Right? To get you through. That's how you dealt with it.
Yeah. And to this day, to you young kids, man, understand multiplication, please. It's the basis of so many things. Multiplication and understanding. When people use the word exponential, I question all the time, do you know what you're talking about when you say exponential? Right? It's the easiest thing. Let me give you an example. To a dyslexic, 9 times 9 is 81, right? And there's something about a 9, and there's something about another 9, and it's 81. And I just see bubbles, and there's an 8, right? And it's 81, right? And most people start with 2 times something, 3 times something, 4 times, right? I started the other way for some reason, because and I will thank Miss Smith for this, every Friday was lessons day. You had to know from your 2 times table to your 12 times table. And that lady would put you up in front of everyone, and she would choose something, and you had to do it. You had to regurgitate it, whether it is, you could choose something. Choose a single digit number between 2 and, let's do this one, between 2 and 12, right?
Right.
Choose a number between 2 and 12.
7.
7 times 1, 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7.
Was this in Barbados?
Yes.
My father, who
right,
grew up in Jamaica, and talk about how the British way of teaching, and that was the foundation, is to know your times table.
Right. So you go through that, and then you understand backwards.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at numbers differently, right? Differently. And it's no mystery why I understand binary, what my wife really refined.
Your IP addressing.
There's no mystery in your IP addressing, right? But that was the catalyst that I didn't know at the time that made me get through. And I chose criminal justice because this forgive me for saying this here, guidance counselor. I think everybody has had crush on some person or another. And this one just, I said, which one will allow me to take the least amount of math? She's
Yeah.
like, are you serious? I said, yep. This was criminal justice. Oh, I had delusions of grandeur, international business, and blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I wanted to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be a doctor, and then I wanted to be a lawyer. And I saw the amount of math, and I said, oh, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And I was the only person that really struggled. The only person, my twin. We'll get to the...
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because I looked up before we had this conversation of those folks who've been diagnosed or believed to have had dyslexia. Mm-hmm. Eric Adams was the mayor of New York was recently on Trevor Noah, and he talked about the fact that he has it and how important it is to screen individuals when they're young so that they can be diagnosed and then taught accordingly.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, man, I am so with that. That would have saved me so much, literally, some stress. And here's the thing, right? Not to go too much in there. When you carry around an unnecessary burden as a child, it stunts so many things. Your social integration, your mental free flowing, your growth. Your stress levels in general. You are not yourself. You are carrying luggage, and we can all say, look, we're all carrying luggage, but he or she's carrying something in addition to the normal shit. And kudos, right? I mean, because some of the greatest minds we now know struggled with so many things. The ex-CEO of this wonderful company that we're employed with.
John Chambers.
Right? John Chambers, right? And it, it does test your mettle. So I do believe that, now we know we can't unknow. So kudos to the mayor for doing that, because we just had to make sense of shit, as they say.
Yeah, he mentioned the statistics on a large portion of folks at Rikers Island are dyslexic. So, you can draw a direct correlation between being undiagnosed and like the struggles that you went through, but managed to deal with and compensate for. Not everybody's that lucky, right?
I had my twin with me, and the only time we were together, like I said, Kim and Kevin, until senior year. We were always together. And let me tell you, I would steal her shit and be like, if you help me, I'll give it back. And thank you, sis, because she was my crutch. For those of you, the males out there, it's like, you're in the same class as your sister. Why can't you just be like your sister? Because I'm not my sister. I'm an adult now. I can say that because I'm not my sister. That's why I never compare any of my three sons. They're like they were born on 3 different planets. And she helped me through quite a bit, just because you just need to be put into a few different unique scenarios and be typecasted and be labeled. Once you are labeled in a system as, difficult to teach, or you're, in a remedial course or something like that, it's tough. It's tough. And as I said, I wasn't diagnosed until late. And I recall being my first year in college, I struggled with math so badly. How badly? I failed until I discovered statistics, and that was my saving grace. Right.
Wow.
So, the story it's rough. It is rough. It's real. It's been my journey. I don't fuss with it anymore. I don't fight with it. It is just a badge of honor now. But I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, it's amazing because, other names that are out there, like you mentioned, John Chambers, rumor that even Albert Einstein
Albert Einstein, Bill Clinton, um,
Tom Cruise,
Tom Cruise, right?
Richard
That's
Branson.
right. Right. Yeah. On and on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, whenever you see them write an S or a 5, a Q, it's rough. Sixes and nines. It's just rough. A 4, please. Write a 4. Like a chair, I call it. Down to the right and then across. That helps, right? That triangle. Oh my goodness, man. Oh, that's rough.
Now, did you end up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at some point?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the first time Kim and myself were split up is because the whole mom dad thing, and mom she went where her career took her in nursing and nursing administration, and dad, of course, in architecture, and then building and architectural sales. Took him, and he had an option. I believe at that time it was Chicago or Harrisburg. And John, I shit you not, I never heard of Harrisburg. Yet we are two gifted kids. I'm like, Harrisburg? Where's Harrisburg? Man, I could tell you Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, or I can tell you some outliers of Shippensburg and some other places. But Harrisburg? Oh, I mean, the capital, used to be the capital of Pennsylvania. Never heard of it. And that was the first Black institution that I've ever gone to. I've never considered Brooklyn or New York or any school to be a Black school or anything. But that was the first Black institution that I attended. And that was John Harris. And that's how I ended up in Harrisburg. Was because Dad's job took him there.
So what was that experience like?
Oh, wow. If I did not learn it, and this is more about me than the institution, because I met some wonderful people there. If I didn't learn it before John Harris, I was not going to learn it. I'm so glad that I finished, like my senior year paper and those projects. I finished them before I got there. And it was a weird time. We moved there over the holidays. So we have senior year. So after January, and so they're all planning on their graduation.
Oh, so it was only a single semester
guy.
you were there then, right?
Yeah, in Harrisburg. Yeah. This was weird. Yeah. And it was the highlight of my high school years. It was a highlight. I've been to Pennsylvania, but for Penn relays, as I mentioned, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's why I would, be in Philadelphia and, and like I said, running track and things like that. But, but going there, let me tell you, you're amongst your own, as they say, and I was well received. So, people always say, what kind of people do you like? Well, I like people that like me. How about that? Let's start there. Well,
so were you the man on campus because you ran track?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I always experienced that in other places, right? Being gifted there. But as I said, it's your senior year, so everything has already been done. So to come into that environment, and we're talking about people that have scholarships now to Rutgers and to Penn State, and there's a lot of people that that came out of to Temple and Big East type things. Yeah, they're well known to this day, still well known, right? But I don't know. It was a little bit more organic for me there, right? Still have friends there to this day. So I my time in Harrisburg was looking back on it. I'm glad that I spent that time there.
So graduating from Harrisburg, so then you had to figure out, okay, you got some guidance from a guidance counselor on the non-mathematical career. So is that what you followed?
It is what my goal was. It is what my goal was. I started off as international business, and then my sister did her first year at Syracuse University. Out of state fees, things like that, right? Partial scholarship. And I did my first year, my first 2 quarters, because it was a quarter system. Didn't know what that was, quarter versus semester, at UGA, because we still had in-state tuition through my dad's previous job. And let me tell you, that didn't go well, because they wanted you to get this certain math out of the way. And that's why I was saying, alluded to earlier, I struggled. Remedial. I mean, it's like remedial math. And I said, well, Dad, I'm transferred to Temple. Okay. Well, I mean, I had like 11 acceptance letters. The only one, though, was a full scholarship to Utah. In hindsight, should have taken it. But back then I was like, oh, hell no. Utah? Why, the Utes, really? But that's a widening that we should have done it. Kim was hell-bent. She wanted to go to Syracuse. She went to Syracuse, but we just couldn't keep up with those payments at the time. My grandmother chimed in and things like that. So the irony is, my twin, she came to UGA and I went to Temple all at the same time. And it was truly at Temple. This is where a certain enlightening came, John. I got a part-time job working at Temple University Hospital. And guess what? They test their employees in ways that today the mayor would approve of New York. You need to do a color test. Who knew? Well, I'm going to show you a forest, and there is some tracks through this forest in green, and I said, in red, and I was like, well, what tracks? And let me tell you, that place lit up. The outlier, the skew, the person that changes it, it's like they're waiting to see somebody fail this test. And boy, I tell you, I failed that test with flying colors. They're like, you serious? You can't see this? And we're going to change the colors. I'm like, oh, there it is. And it turns right here. And it was a label, and you had to tell it where it turned. And I was like, yeah, it's right there. And once you put red and green together, I can't see it, John. I cannot see it. And,
so let me get this straight. You were like 18 years old?
Yeah, man, 17. We did start, thankful to Barbados, right? We were always a year ahead. Private school is a wonderful thing in hindsight, right? They'll carry you at your pace that you can move at. So we were always a year ahead. Whenever they said, oh, no, they're not old enough, my mom or dad would swoop in and be like, bullshit. We don't want to hear that. Right. We'll take whatever test, and we passed it and we were accepted. We didn't care about birthdays, May. So I took that test, and let me tell you, things changed after that, right? And then, of course, it is, they're very, I call them, to me, they're very cognitive. And my dad always said, it's a paradigm shift. There's something in your life that changes, and it's not what you've been thinking. Now it is proven. There's a paradigm shift. And wow. To see, for someone else now to see things the way you see them. And I guess that's what comes with either working or being affiliated with a institution of higher learning, I suppose, to simplify it, right?
So that was the color blindness test, but what about the dyslexia? When was that?
Yes. There was little droplets. There was little hints.
Little breadcrumbs.
Little breadcrumbs along the way. But it was a Black history teacher who recommended that I go and see someone. And when I found out that this person also was affiliated with Temple University, which is why Temple and will always be near and dear to me. To be there, like I said, to do only 2 quarters at UGA, and then Georgia Bulldogs, right? You name it. There's so many stars that have come out of there, whether it's golf or tennis or football or basketball, right? And then make it to Temple, and it's there that I am now. The struggling is becoming real, right? You're seeing colors differently.
Yep.
And guys, please understand that being colorblind means you have to choose a shade. You have to fill in certain things. It's tough. Please, you have to understand that when something is, I'm doing air quotes, it's boiling hot, it's red, or it's inflamed, and there's a picture of it. What that means to you is completely different unless the artist can truly relate to me what pain is through his or her artistry in drawing, right? A swelling or something like that. There's a look of discomfort on the face, but don't just put it inflamed and make it quote unquote pink or red or something. But we don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You need more indicators than
I need, please. Yeah. Please. Right. And you look back and you're like, wow, you didn't realize so many things. When a sauce is a certain color, or what blood means to you, or indigo or crimson or maroon versus candy apple red, a fire engine in a truck. You look back at it and you go, wow, what did I really miss out on? But it really was not until Temple and that job working in the ER and everything that it was diagnosed. It was like all at once. The breadcrumbs were there, but by then my brain was seasoned to memorizing things. And the funny thing is, growing up in the Caribbean, in New York, we call it pseudosciences, but it's the psychology, the sociology, blah, 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 blah. Math and English, those are the things that really would excel you. At least I was taught that way. Not being a psychology major, not being a philosophy major, things like that. But by then my mind was seasoned to memorize certain things. And that carried into, if you show me there's 4 lines of code, whether it's Python or Ruby or C, right? You just know. I literally can tell you, how many things were. It's like if there were too many capitalizations in something in the wrong place. ASCII. I love ASCII. What's that? With text. To me, it's just such a natural, beautiful thing because I can see typos before they occur. Does it mean you understand it? But to a person that's dyslexic and you just know there's 4 lines of code, and why is that running all the way to the end? You just know right where to hone in and focus, right?
So in a way, it gives you a superpower that others don't have, right? It's similar to someone who might lose their sight and become oversensitive with hearing and smell, right?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it, John. Yeah, definitely. So, but definitely too late in life for it to be diagnosed, but better late than never, as they say. And
I got to imagine there's a comfort just knowing, right?
Oh, man. And there's a comfort in knowing, discomfort in not having the strength to go back to people like, I haven't told you. Why didn't you know? You know what I mean? It took for this person. And man, I keep thinking about the struggles that I had. I could have chosen a whole different major, a whole different anything in life, as long as people know. We make sure that there's a handicap ramp. We make sure that there's there's a certain bell to ring for certain people, in hotel rooms and things like that. And it's not their choice. That's why it's law. But not for dyslexic or colorblind or things like that. And we're not talking about, early 1900s, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're not that old. Right. So for you to overcome the fact that as an immigrant from an immigrant family, growing up
Oh,
in
definitely.
Brooklyn in the time that you did,
Hmm.
with the challenges associated with that, and then moving to Connecticut with the challenges associated with that, having
Hmm.
the dyslexia and the color blindness,
And the color blindness.
and still
Yeah, John.
making it through. It's like
Hmm.
threading a
Hmm.
needle in a way. And so you
Right.
think about
Right.
all of the other kids who
Hmm.
are out there
By
who,
themselves,
by
without a
themselves,
sister, without a
without a
sister or
sister,
brother.
without the family support,
Right.
and just getting lost in the system, right?
Lost. And then Kim left, and Kim's doing her thing, right? And Kim's always, the irony is Kim wanted to be a doctor, and Kim said, "Hey, Kev, this chemistry class, this is the deciding factor." And she's like, "I got a B, and this is the class that you needed to ace." And I always regret not being that brother, though we're twins, to be able to say, you know what, screw that. You got to be. And I know you struggled like crazy to get it. And actually, she retook the class and got a B the second go around. It was a C, and then she got a B. And then she switched to law. And
Mm.
she is, of course, obviously a successful lawyer today, and passed 2 bars, passed the DC bar and passed New York State bar. But it wasn't her initial true passion. And I always wonder, I always go, what? No one said, hey, Kim, no, screw that. B was good enough. But someone convinced her that if you couldn't ace this chemistry, you couldn't be a doctor.
Mm.
Right? And I always wonder if she was someone else, what would have happened? What would have happened, right? In '94, would someone else have said, well, we know it's good enough, but someone convinced you that if you couldn't ace it with an A, it's not good enough. So there's things like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You never
Yeah.
know what forces
Mm-hmm.
pull you in a different direction and drive you to make
Mm-hmm.
different choices. So
That's right.
so you graduate
Mm-hmm.
from Temple.
Oh, let me be
I
clear.
don't think
Let
it
me be
was on
clear.
the 4-year plan though, right?
No, that's right. That's right. Let's not mislead any of our listeners here,
You
John.
still got a little bit of a struggle, even though you're diagnosed, right?
The time that it took Kim to get out of law school and actively pursuing the bar, I was struggling to finish these last credits. And I would say the saddest thing was to not to lose sight of your graduation class, to have the credits to graduate. And then I remembered, I said the biggest, it's not an embarrassment today, but then it was to be way over your credits. But when you don't know what you want to do, you're undeclared,
Right.
and you go through certain things. And then I was actually working. I was actually working. Uh, I was a girlfriend of my dad's that actually got me a job working for IBM, hence being at that they are the reason that I moved to Georgia. That I went back to Temple online and to finish that. So I never did the whole formal walking thing, but it was it's like, hey, look, there was something called I don't know, for those of you that may know this, it's called library sciences. I just needed to do library sciences, and that was that. And I graduated, and that was that. And but other than that, there was no formal. Hey, grandma, dad, and mom, and everyone's coming to Kevin's graduation. By that time, I was. It was like one of those. Hey, man, that shit was yesterday's news. You should have been done with that. And I didn't have the stones back then
Mm-hmm.
to we're not gonna make this a big hoopla, you know what I mean? But yeah. So again, those initial hurdles, learning disabilities and things like that, not an excuse, because I can remember where they wore on me so much that sometimes you give up and then you remember what your strengths are and you can focus on those and tailor them. But it's what's the word? It's not apprehensive, but it is. I would say I could see how people would say, you know what, screw this, f this. It's a. There was so many times where I almost just gave up and said,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
can just
screw
give up,
this,
right?
just screw
It
this,
took a lot
just screw
more to
this.
keep going, and
Yeah, I mean, there you are with over the credit. Let me be clear: 26 credits over. If you look at what, and I lost touch after 69 credits. I remembered it's like, you know, you're well on your way after 60 credits. You're well on your way at any college or institution. And I'm sitting here like, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to? All I know is that learning is tough and it's difficult, and I got to do something, right? But all of those issues are what caused me to try and just push it up under a rug. And like I said, it wasn't until Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. Now, mind you, I got a grandfather that is an architect, that is a college professor, right? My father, right? Scholarship, McGill. My mother, nursing, right?
yeah. So you're not like first
Naming.
generation college material, right?
I am
You've got
second.
you've got a
Yeah, I
legacy.
am.
Yeah, yeah.
But these learning disabilities, right? You're not. I mean, autistic and all that kind of stuff is like second nature to people nowadays. But these issues, there's one thing also to label something and to say that's what that is, and those are the symptoms. The secondary and tertiary are what are what will it cause in a person if it is not supported?
Right.
That's
Once it's diagnosed, it's one thing to diagnose, but then you got to
knows it.
be able to
Now what?
support it. Yeah. Now what?
That's
Right.
right.
If
Now
nothing
what?
changes, then it's just a diagnosis. But
We're living organisms.
yeah,
We will find a way to survive. And some people are like, hey, look, by what would you say, crime? I will come through your front door. I'll come through your back door. One or the other, right? We will find a way to live. And mine was, of course, my memory and realizing that that was an asset of mine. Um, John, I swear to you, if I meet someone and I can tell that they've got like their hair's colored on the left, or there's a swoop or something, and then I see it differently, and I'll remember the day, I'll remember the time. I'll say, hey, look, it was cut this way, or you were wearing this, or you were wearing that, and it creeps people out. But
yeah.
that's
So
the way my
you're
memory
a good
works.
eyewitness. You're a good eyewitness.
I'm a great eyewitness. I am great. And but yeah, so
All right. So you finally get out of Temple after 6.5 years,
my
I think it is.
goodness,
And
Jesus, man,
so
yeah.
real quick, how the heck do you end up coming from a criminal justice degree to someone who's leading technical marketing engineer at Cisco
Man,
collaboration?
technical marketing
How do
engineer,
you join
technical
those two
and
dots?
a leader. So, as I mentioned, my dad's girlfriend was working for IBM, and IBM is what brought me to Georgia. And I spent some time at IBM, and from IBM, I went to HP. It was 1 year, 2 years, then went back to IBM. And then this whole outsourcing thing and contracting thing, and I was working for a partner, a Cisco partner, and there was an ex-Cisco employee, Bart Goss, Bart to this day out of Columbus, Georgia. Bart decided to go back to Cisco, and he said, "Hey, you should really come and join Cisco." And I was like, "I'm not ready. I'm not ready." And then I remembered saying, "Listen, I'm telling you, you can do this. You can do this." And when you don't work for Cisco, unless you've worked for something like someone like IBM, like I said, or HP, you remember, hey, look, I never worked for HP. I never worked for IBM. And I got this job at Cisco. I decided to finally be like, okay, fine, I'll interview and everything. And And let me tell you, I was so nervous for that interview. And at the same time, there was a guy who's now at AWS, Darren Hunter, who I interviewed with all at the same time. And this is all for Cisco. And my dad was instrumental also at the same time in getting me that interview. And Darren interviewed me. Darren was the manager for advanced services. I didn't know what the hell advanced services was at the time. And as we all know now, they are the ninjas. They are the mercenaries of, technical implementations for Cisco. And everybody was at the CCIE level. And within 5 minutes, I knew I was out of my depth. And then following, but he was very instrumental. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And then it really helped me for the interview, the following one that I had. And one was a permanent and one was a contractor job. And I went and I passed it with flying colors. And but I was a contractor for years, all too happy to be at Cisco. And that was my intro into Cisco.
Okay.
And when,
Through service.
as they say, right, yeah, as they say in all roads at some point in the technical industry will cross roads or intersect with Cisco at some point. If you don't work at Cisco, well, you know what? Your competition, your company, your customer, they utilize Cisco at some point. And it was great. I mean, the travel and the exposure, and somewhere along the line, I think it was, I was farmed out to CPOC, Customer Proof of Concept. And that was any deal at $1 million or more. And we would emulate your environment.
Yep.
All right. In RTP. And I'll tell you, John,
I've been to a few of those.
Okay. And that was truly what was the game changer for me was, someone understood. I remember my manager said, "Who was that you're talking to?" And I said, "Oh, that was Sprint." And, they find out that where a subject and a verb goes in the sentence. And they were like, he was adamant. He's like, "Oh, well, that really should be going to this person and that person." I said, hey, look, they asked a question. I answered it. That's all. That's all I know. Mm-hmm. And from there, next thing I knew was the channel division was my first full-time on the radar because I spent 4 years as a contractor. Like I said, and it was literally just helping the CEO, just explaining it in dare I say, dummy 101. You have to meet people on their level, simplify it, stop with the jargon and the acronyms, and explain what is occurring, why it needs to go one more day, things like that with the stress testing. And John, in explaining that and not knowing who that gentleman was what the game changer was for me because it was very organic. I mean, I had my backpack on and everything walking out the door, talking to this guy. And John, those are the best things, right? You're not, right?
Yep.
And the channel partner that ran that, as I learned, even being a technical guru for Cisco, all business runs through a channel partner. And they decided they wanted to hire me, and they became a channel engineer. And it was in data center and virtualization. And that was the beginning. I mean, everything was the catalyst and the platform for this BU technical marketing engineer job. But that was truly the beginning of what Cisco cares about. But now I've been on the radar now, working for Channels, America's partner program. Wonderful leadership. And after that, the collab bug bit me. If the collab bug did not bite me, I would not know who you are because you can do your security, you can do your
Yeah, it's almost like ships in the night.
converged network, right? Yeah. But when you're done, if you say that network is ready, you port collab on it, because collab will find the faults in your network. Voice and video will do that, right? Jitter and delay, things like that. And it's amazing. And I keep thinking about not understanding. And John, when you plug a network cable into a catalyst switch, into any switch, I don't care who the vendor is, you have to teach yourself what an amber light looks like in terms of shade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
What that green light, right? So you teach yourself, though, you understand whether that switch is going through something, right? Listening and learning and forwarding, right?
Or did your color blindness affect you then?
Oh,
and then how did you compensate?
Holy shit. You become a CLI guru. You become a CLI guru. And you understand, I mean, that forwarding, as I mentioned, listening, learning, forwarding, for those of you that are unaware, and you understand the frequency in which something blinks, and you become intimate, dare I say that. I can't find a better word for it.
Yeah.
You become intimate.
I'm very sensitive and to nuances that others don't need to be to compensate for the fact that you don't have a particular what's the word I'm looking for? Ability to sense that, but your compensation becomes your superpower, right? Because
that's right.
Now you look at things differently, and you can see things that others can't see.
That's right. That's right.
That's the whole point, right? And so, in your career at Cisco, you managed to be able to compensate. And that can, at some times, I would imagine, be an advantage, right?
Oh yeah. When I look back at whether it's the clock, as I'm playing basketball, and you're looking at you're looking at the clock, and you are wondering, what is it that they're seeing that you're not? You're taking a science class, and you don't understand what it is they're seeing under just a microscope that you don't see. I'll tell you what I loved. I loved the chalkboard. It's black and white. I love that. Instruments on a dashboard are so tough. When people say it's redlining, I'm like, well,
you need an old time 69 Mustang with analog gauges, right?
What? Come on, what are y'all talking about? And but yeah, there's certain things like that. So for me, it's just easy to just wear a dark color and a light color. It's just simplifies things. But the point is that you grow up with these things, and you compensate. When someone asks me about certain makeup, or how, she says, how do you like this? I go, I mean, I look at features, symmetrical features. That's what beauty is to me, right? It's not a color thing, right? You telling me that you're sunburned, I'm like, you might want to talk to someone else. You know what I mean? Right. But seriously, but I do understand, the biggest thing, I think, with video, right, is and I understood this with my dad, who's also a very great photographer, ISO ranges, right? There's noise in a photographer, right? Man, as long as your eyesight is good, you understand noise.
Yeah. So you can see the noise, right?
Oh, my goodness.
You can see
it is blaring, and you focus on the things that you can.
Right. Sharpness.
See the sharpness, right?
Graininess.
Right. If a camera's a wide angle lens or something, right? If something is off there and the lines in the back are kind of curved,
the
like
bends on the edges,
like a backslash, right? Or chromatic aberration. There's certain things that you then focus on, right? But yeah, so we focus on what we know, and the other things. Hey, look, man, toss it up and pray that nobody notices, right?
Right. So, given where you are today, what advice would you give your younger self, or someone out there who finds themselves in a similar circumstances. Maybe they're struggling a little bit,
Ooh.
you know?
You know what? I'm so glad that you didn't give me these questions ahead of time, because that one's a very easy one now. Now, if you have a good friend,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a good friend at any juncture in your life, the truth is that you'll be okay if you have a good friend.
Mm.
Friends will not let you struggle. They'll talk to you. They'll also let people know. They may find a voice for you that you may not have at that particular time. And that's all you need in life, is to surround yourself with good people. So many things have happened in my life for the better at opposite ends of the spectrum. One, because I had no friends, or the wrong, what I thought were friends, air quotes, or because I had a good friend. You know, my wife, one of my 3 beautiful sons. I mean, she's a good friend. She's a good friend. Right. So, I always wonder, just people that do so many podcasts, it is cathartic in a way. It is.
Well, this conversation is, right, because it gets to the root of how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it gets you reflecting on, hey, if this thing didn't happen, things would be different. Right.
Yeah.
And how do I,
And John, I often wonder, despite the my upbringing, learning how to endear yourself to certain things, to understand that my grandmama and Barbados and everything there it is different. It's a different way of life than it is in the U.S. The way you learn and the obstacles thrown in front of you. I often wonder, if I had none of those things and everything were just laid out in front of me for me to consume, what would I be today? What would my persona, my personality be with? What would I be able to teach my sons or bestow upon them? So there's some things I do wish I say, I don't care. No, screw that shit. I can do without that, and so could any other young child.
Mm-hmm.
But
how much does adversity build character?
Thank you. You have put that in a much more eloquent manner than I would have. Thanks for saving me with the edits with that. Right.
So back to you were saying, if advice you can give someone in your circumstance was, you said to seek out a friend.
Yeah. Surround yourself with good people if you can grasp that. And I would challenge everyone that by a certain age, there is what is good for you and versus what's good to you. There's certain things that we know who's a good friend to us, and embrace that shit. Embrace it. Trust me, there's dividends to be paid in surrounding yourself with good people. And good is a relative term. It's different to each person, but what's good for us is not necessarily what we often endear ourselves to, and
we may not
projecting.
know at the time, right?
Oh my goodness, I'm going to raise my hand virtually there on that one. I did not know it at the time. The things that I cursed about and was frustrated about, but the truth is, I needed it. I needed that swift kick, as they say, and maturity at the time due to stress and frustration. But the truth is, what I would say is that when people are good for you, they see things that you may not always see. It is impossible to see something when you are inside that picture, inside the frame. You'll never see yourself like someone else will. So if you surround yourself with good people that are good to you / for you, and I say that, and I'm going to stress that and repeat that, because it's tough sometimes to, we may not have the fortunate circumstance of a grandmummy or granddaddy or mom and dad and blah, blah, blah. But if you surround yourself with as good a people as possible, you will fare better. I believe in that. There's just untold dividends there.
And you tend to pick up traits, and become who you hang out with. It's like you are what you eat. You are who you associate with, right?
Hey, folks, what he said. Yes, indeed.
As we reflect back on all of the turning points you just talked about, there's a
Right.
bunch, right?
Right.
Lessons learned for each one. Let's try.
Yeah.
Let's try and summarize. Let's wrap a bow on it, right?
Okay. All right.
All right. So you start out in Brooklyn. We
Bedford
talked about
Stuyvesant.
do or die Bed-Stuy.
Do or die.
We talked about the challenges associated with that.
Yeah.
There was this mentality, and you said the two words, "get out." To get out. I think the first turning point was your mom got a job in Connecticut, so you moved.
Ah, that's right. Fairfield County. That's right.
So
that is right.
It opened your eyes to what was outside of Brooklyn. If you can see it, you can be it. But with that came its positives and its negatives, right? You were a minority's minority in a majority world in Connecticut. And so
you summarized that so well. More hazing, more, hey, look, your mettle is tested more so in that place.
Right. So you develop some tough skin as a result of that, right? So
that's right.
You got to learn how to compensate, not even just on the learning side, but just the living side, right?
That's right.
As a result of that. I think the back and forth of Barbados and being brought up and getting a taste of the British education system didn't hurt. Right?
Oh, no, it did not. It did not. And I'll say that that's when I realized that I do not like to be embarrassed. Right? Because
you got to know your times table, right? You're not going to stand up in front of class and not
front.
Table,
that's right?
So I think what that probably taught you is to always be prepared.
Oh, yes, John. Yes.
Right?
That's always it. Yes.
Prepared.
Yes.
And so during that time between Barbados and all the different schools and high school, you had to become, I think you said, these are your words, not mine when we first talked, become a master of cheating the system.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it cheating. I call it compensating.
Compensating, right. Adapting.
Right. Yep.
That's right. Surviving. Yeah.
Surviving. Like you said, the fear of failure drove Kevin. Right.
Still.
And you also said this, you felt that you had to run a little faster than other folks, right? Because of that imposter syndrome, right? So I think all of those nuances of not being diagnosed for such a long time, I think, all those other names that we named, the Eric Adams, the Albert Einsteins, the Tom Cruises, the Richard Bransons, the John Chambers, all became great because they found a way to deal with that, and they developed superpowers that others don't have as a result of that. I've read articles that talked about it, right? That when you look at a lot of CEOs and world leaders, they in fact were dyslexic and are dyslexic. So I think, the message really to me of this whole podcast is, look, you can be in a circumstance that just the circumstance itself, the environment puts you as a disadvantage. But then you have, how do I characterize it? Inward things that also put you at a disadvantage. There's a way out, as you said.
There's a way out. There's a way out.
And you found the way out, right? So I think this conversation has been beneficial from that perspective.
I think so. I hope so. I hope so, John. I hope so. And I would challenge anyone that is struggling, when you look at something and you see it as you perceive differently, please find a person that understands. You may need to find another Martian like yourself on Earth. Trust me, they exist.
They exist.
They exist. They exist in the form of a friend. And if that friend can't figure it out, trust me, a good friend will find someone else that can speak that language of that Martian. Trust me. We're uncovering different diagnoses every day. And you mix that with things that still exist, right? In tech, biases in tech, right? We're chauvinistic. We're talking colorism. We're talking about racism. We're talking about, there's so many things, the old guard, the new guard, all of those things. And then you throw all of that on top of a certain previously undiagnosed disabilities. It's a miracle. It is a miracle, right? All of the names all of the names that you've mentioned, John, well, guess what? Kevin is still the one outlier, the one skew, the one that is different. There's one thing that is different from all of those names that you have mentioned, right? It is no miracle that with Cisco Systems, right? And I am fortunate to work for this company, very happy and very proud, for people of color with facial recognition, right? And there's those that have come before me, but they have just not nailed it and figured it out. But, thanks to the Oslo team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I do understand video. At least I believe I do. And guess what? They believe that I do. And we've resolved that, right? MIT and everyone has published papers on biasness and facial recognition of people of color. But you've mentioned all those people with dyslexia, handicaps, as they, it is, as it's recognized as. And, but yet we have not put a person of color, God forbid, a person of color and with Caribbean heritage in that ballgame, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Wow. So I got to thank you, Kevin, for joining this conversation. This conversation doesn't end here, right? Mm-hmm. This conversation will continue. Your success doesn't end here. Mm-hmm. We are both of a certain age. I'm a little bit older than you, but the journey is not yet over. You're passing the baton to your 3 sons. Mm-hmm. We didn't even get into that. There's a whole nother conversation.
My goodness.
We'll save for next time about homeschooling and all that.
Yes.
But what I'm learning from all of these inspiring stories, and I think you're my 8th conversation I've had so far, that none of these journeys are traveled alone. Like you said, you gotta get a friend
That's right.
to help you through. There's a lot of support along the way, whether it be individuals, organizations, sometimes a little luck. There's a lot of support along the way. Sometimes it'd be individuals, organizations, sometimes a little luck.
That's right.
I always say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, please. That can't really be done if you don't know where the boots are at. It also requires the persistence and tenacity of the individuals who want to succeed. So I think you're a perfect example of that. You said, John, what continues to drive me is fear of failure, right? Fear of standing in front of that teacher in Barbados in that small classroom and not knowing what 12 times 12 is, right?
144. That's right. That's right.
So I'd just like to say thanks for listening, and I hope you were able to get something out of this conversation that can help inspire you or help you inspire someone else that may be in a similar circumstance. So if you like what you heard, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who you think might benefit. Kevin, thanks again for participating today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all your inspirational posts. Sincerely. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Take care.